Okay, my bad. Let's start.
Okay, now it's
No,
fine.
okay, you can see the screen, right? So again, I'm going from the beginning. Okay, session three. So the topic today, again, I'm going starting from the start. So we are discussing only 4 points today, 4 topics we are going to discuss. Though it will take some time, but be very serious, be very focused. What I'm saying. So you have Salesforce Data Event, Marketing Cloud Connect, synchronized data extension, and CRM configuration. I missed one more point, but once we go in the flow, I think I'll cover that one as well. So uh, the first one is Salesforce Data Event. So again, I'm saying I'm not satisfied with whatever you people said. I'll tell you why. So again, what happens when you use Salesforce Data Event. So it is an action that it is taken in the Sales Cloud or the Service Cloud, right? Whenever there is some kind of a create or an update that happens for that particular record, and then once that trigger is done, okay, that action is being done in those Sales or Service Cloud, that gets injected into a journey. You have the filter criteria where you can define a filter, like saying, okay, I want to bring this particular contact into journey based on some criteria. So we'll define what criteria you can define, how you can define, and here whenever you use Salesforce data, there is a flow builder in Sales or Service Cloud that actually gets triggered. Okay, now before going to the remember what points that you need to remember, hmm, for me is like, see, I can do whatever use case that Sudas or Sumit or Suryakiran said. Okay, I can do it via our synchronous data extension. I can do MC Connect and then configure synchronous data extension. I can bring those records, and then I can build an automation, right, to pick those records from synchronous data extension and then inject them into a journey. So is it not necessarily required that you need Salesforce data, right? So why we are directly using Salesforce data rather than synchronous data extension? So one basic fact, okay, which I said I do not agree with all of you, was it was more of a real time scenario. Hmm. So let's say if you use synchronous data extension, so the pooling in synchronous data extension that happens is you have to define the minimum pooling rate that you define is 15 minutes, right? So every record that gets updated or created, it gets synced to Marketing Cloud after 15 minutes. Hmm. And it's resides in synchronous data extension. Now you need to build an automation query, right? And then no matter what, if you have only one query, it will definitely going to take another 5, 10, 15 minutes. And then only you can inject them into journey. So it is not that real time. But if you use Salesforce data, then let's say, as what Suraj said, hmm, let's say some contact is getting created. So when the contact is getting created, the very moment the contact is created and the process builder, you know, it runs in the Sales Cloud, then it basically triggers the journey, and that records get entered into Marketing Cloud. So you don't have to wait 15 minutes. Max I think is 2 to 3 minutes or 5 minutes. In the upper hand, I'll say okay, it's 5 minutes that it gets injected into the journey. So it's more of a real time. Uh, so nowadays everyone wants real time. They don't want, they have to wait for a long time and all. But both of the use case have their own drawbacks and advantages. And once we progress through this session, you'll understand which has more, value addition. And mm, now the point to remember is very critical here when you do Salesforce data. So first point is each record includes a ID for the user, lead, or contact entering the journey. So whenever you are basically using an object, the object will have its specific ID. So for contact, we say contact ID, right? So lead with lead ID. For user, it will have user ID. And that particular ID basically becomes the subscriber key for email. Hmm. And uh, you need to you that always becomes the subscriber key. Okay, and basic fact is you're sending an email, right? And to send an email, you basically have to have the consent of that particular contact, lead, or user for them to send an email. So it's better that if I filter, the first filter that I'll do is I'll say whether they have the email address or not. I don't think that in Sales Cloud, email address is a mandatory field. So most of the time, not most of the time, a lot of time there will be cases where that though it injected, they didn't receive an email. Why they didn't receive email? Because they don't have the email address. Plain and simple fact. Now, but if you're not looking for their opt-out flag, if there is an opt-out flag and the flag status is opt-out is equals true, hmm, and the person is saying, I don't want to receive any email. How can you send an email? So then the first point that you have to remember is the very point when you are injecting those objects from Sales or Service Cloud, you have to first validate these two important criteria. It will basically help you optimizing everything. Okay. Now, second point, what it says is after the entry source is configured, you configured it everything. You can't edit the object. Okay. Once the object, the record enters the journey, you don't have an option to basically go and edit it. Hmm. What you can do, if you want to choose a different object, you have to either delete it, okay, recreate the entry source, and you have to do it from beginning. So you have to be very careful when you start with this Salesforce entry. You have to have a proper use case. Every flow that is should be basically documented and understood the use case. If you are just giving a trial and error, then for anyone, it's not necessary that you use Salesforce data. Better is use say synchronous data extension, and through automation scheduling the journey, you can do that, and you will have more leverage of editing and doing a lot of things. Hmm. And this says you can edit the entry criteria, that is the filter, okay, and the event date for a configured entry source before it is published. So before publishing, right, you haven't activated and is in the draft state. Okay, you have a lot of options to configure, but they're clearly saying that be careful when you are doing all this configuration. Later on, you will not have a lot of leverage to do when you use Salesforce data entry. Hmm. Now the third point, after you save the entry source, Marketing Cloud creates a data extension that uses event data as column and contact ID as subscriber ID. As I said, for any ID, okay, that you have, then let's say you are using lead, then it will be a lead ID as a subscriber. Okay, यहाँ पे ID. So they're saying it will be subscriber ID, not the subscriber key. So both subscriber ID, it should be subscriber key, right? So that has to be verified once again. But this is from the documentation, from Salesforce documentation. Now, the other point is a row is created in the data extension every time a record meets the criteria. So what you have, you're saying I want to bring a contact object into Marketing Cloud, and I have specified certain criteria. Let's say email address is not null and opt-in flag. Okay, there is an opt-out flag. So let's say opt-out flag is false. Okay, so not every record is going to enter based on the criteria. If the criteria is met, then only it's getting updated, inserted. Hmm. Now, the very important, which I have basically bold, I have made it bold here. What it says is, once it meets the criteria and it enters the journey, it does not. After that, let's say Suraj's record is created in contact object. So Suraj has a record there, first name as Suraj, and he stated his second name as Kumar, for example. And once he enters the journey, okay, and then later he goes to Sales Cloud and then he updates to Suraj, okay, his then his second name, or say the last name he updated. It is not going to reflect it in the journey anymore. That particular data extension that creates at the root folder, whenever you basically save the journey, okay, once you save the journey, a data extension get created by the name of that journey at the root folder of the data extension. And once it start entering, it's got entered. Now you are not able it will this particular by via this journey, those any updated attribute values will not be reflected. This is another important point. Now the fourth, the integration between marketing cloud, sales cloud uses. See how many things they use in the sales cloud to trigger the journey. They have a flow, they have the process builder, okay, they have the apex code, they have the platform events, and everything is done via soap API. It's not via REST API. And there are some certain uh, governor limits, okay, like a number of records to be flown into that particular journey uh, per soap API, that will be restricted to 2000. Hmm. And there are other lot of limitations that have. So there will be documentation. If so official documentation you want to see, we can go there. But I don't want to go that into detail. It will take another 1 hour or so. uh, the first, when we go with the entry source for the journey. Hmm. So basically, they give us the Salesforce data, that is the sales or service cloud, and we have the community cloud. Okay, and on top of it, they also have this Salesforce campaign, which is part of Sales Cloud only. So the core, when we discuss about the Salesforce core, that is Sales Cloud. Now, this with these three different entry points, their configuration is also little different from each other. So if I have to go with the, okay, before going to that flow, or the few things, yeah, okay, the definition that I was saying, there are some certain limitation in others. For that, the implications are here. Hmm. So for Salesforce data integration, community cloud integration, and Salesforce campaign integration, these are the implications. Limit, what they're saying is limit the selection of 250 fields or less. So for any object, they might have a lot of fields that is configured in the Sales Cloud. So they are saying that, okay, don't bring all the uh, fields into Marketing Cloud. Okay, whatever is required, only bring those fields and limit it up to 250. And also they're saying the object number of objects that you have for your configuration, limit that configuration of the objects to 80 or less, not more than that. Hmm. So this, they're explicitly saying that for optimal performance of the journey, this has to be done. Now, second point is Salesforce entry source are only editable when no other running journeys or version uses them. So let's say you have two different use cases, hmm, where you want to use Salesforce data, and one is like, say what Suraj says is for onboarding, and let's say what Sumit says for some other use case. I forgot what he said for the use case, but let's say there are two different use cases, and for both the use cases, you want contact object to be, running through the. So you say Salesforce entry sources are only editable when no other journeys are running. So you can't build two different or three different use cases based out of Salesforce entry source. This is another limitation. What is the third limitation? If the sales or service cloud or connected to marketing cloud changes, okay, this is a very important one. Delete all associated journeys and events. Journey can reference object or fields that don't exist in the new org and can publishing to failure. So there will be a lot of failures that will going to happen if any changes had occurred in another, in sales cloud or service cloud. So what they are saying is basically, I'll just make it little in a layman topic. Let's say today you configured a journey with sales data entry, mm, sales for data entry, and let's say I remember most of the sales orgs, they sometimes what they do is they refresh their org. They basically refresh the sandbox. Okay, they refresh the production org also, and lot of activity that happens for their optimization and their other data uh, architecture and all. And when they do refresh, hmm, we basically has to basically sometimes we have to even go and stop the MC connect. We have to basically disconnect the, that connection, handshaking. So when you disrupt that, because internally it is using process builder and all in Sales Cloud. Okay, everything gets impacted. So what they're saying is, if sales or service cloud which is connected to marketing cloud, they basically refresh or change something, they are recommending saying that delete all associated journeys and events. And what happens is if you do not basically do anything, you'll see that your journey stops working. Mm. And most of the time you have to do create a new version and start doing and all those things that happens because not people are not till now I haven't seen anybody understanding the full flow how this is configured. If they don't know process builder, if they don't know the flow how it is get triggered, then you know, for me it's that's what I'm saying. I restrict myself of using Salesforce data entry as a source only if that is required. Like if they say that is a real time communication that has to happen on certain uh, actions that is taken in the sales cloud, then I will only go with this particular entry source. Hmm. Now, another important point here is you can grant user access to create or edit the Salesforce event. Okay, you can grant access to some other users. Okay, except marketing cloud administrator role. So, though it looks you will not understand, but slowly you will understand what will happen when we go to permission types and others, how the synchronization happens and what happens. Then you'll have a better picture. I'll stop for a minute and tell me if anybody understood what I said till now. Anybody has a question till now?
Shashi, I'm having the small doubt on the second point. Like Salesforce entry source are only editable when no other journeys and version uses them.
Mm,
So, like if we
mm,
have a running journey, so
mm.
we can't use the Salesforce data session for new journey. What how it will be?
So he's saying Salesforce entry source are only editable when no other journey or the version is using them. Yeah. So you're using object, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the object, let's say you might be thinking of this key. Okay, I'm going to create a Salesforce data journey with contact object where it is when it is created, and this is the filter criteria. Hmm. And you go and create another one, and you say, okay, I'm going to add more filters to it, right? So uh, editing might be a lot of issues. Full clearly, I can't. I'll when I'll show it, I can describe this. Okay,
Okay,
but
okay.
for me, this is
So
not a
we can use
recommended practice
different
to show.
objects, right? Like we can use different
Different
objects
objects you
for
can do.
different journey. Yeah, okay, okay.
Dif-
Now I understood.
dif-
Okay.
dif- different object you can do, but for the same object.
Okay, okay. Now understood. Okay. Yeah.
See what they're saying. Salesforce entry source are only editable when no other running journeys or the version using them. So if you're using contact, then you're creating another contact object, then it might have
Mhm.
some lot of issues.
Okay, okay.
Hmm.
No, understood,
Ah,
understood. Yep.
but your question is well taken. I'll clarify if once you progress ahead, then
Hmm.
I can show you and then I think if that is possible I can show you. But I'll take this point. I'll just keep it with you. I'll come to that as well. But it's a
Okay.
good question. Anybody else? Okay, let me move it back. Hmm. So other things, all things are clear.
The fourth one also, it is like quite we generally we grant the all type of permission, or like the highest level of permission to marketing cloud admin role. That's what I like I understood till now. So
Okay.
like we are
So
not
okay.
giving him the permission. Yeah.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll let me rephrase this statement. For all these 4 points here that I am describing, consider this as a best practice. Hmm. Somebody might
Okay.
come and say, okay, I can do this and all. That is okay. You are deviating from there, but definitely it will have some issues when you deviate. There might be a lot of different ways to do it, but these are the best practice. Okay, let's consider this as a best practice.
Okay.
Hmm. And regarding your point of the last point of the role and permissions, when we progress, you will understand it more clearly.
Okay.
I'm not going here to spend this time because I'll be going in some other direction. I don't want to go there. Okay.
Okay.
So now, first entry point is the Salesforce data. Hmm. When we do the Salesforce data, we first go and select which object we want to uh, add it to our journey, right? So you have whom you want to, like second point is who enters the journey, such as user, leader, contact, which object you want to do, that happens there. Now, the second point is the entry criteria. Mm. So the entry criteria you're defining when that particular object has to enter the journey. Okay? And then you can set some filters also, like saying that it has to have a proper email address, it has to have a proper consent, and you can add other attributes like uh, the person is if there is a gender, you can say male and female. Lot of things you can do. Hmm. But restrict yourself not to use date field there. So sometimes date field also, if you have some attributes with a date field, it sometimes creates some chaos there. Hmm. So better you have a boolean field with true and false and null. All those things can be done. Hmm. But like operator and all, I don't think that is much feasible, and neither that can be done. And last one, and then the fourth or the fifth one, which I'm saying, okay, select the attribute. Okay, the fourth one. So the attributes, first one you selected this object. Okay, then you said go to the entry criteria and said, okay, I want this contact. Let's say I'll take an example of contact object. So I said, okay, whenever a contact is created or whenever a contact is updated, I will allow that person or or record to flow to the journey. Hmm. The third one you said, okay, uh, those let's say Ankita's record is created as an contact object, and she has given the consent and she has the email address. Then I'm going to allow Ankita into the journey. Okay, and then for personalization, if you require, let's say, uh, as what Suraj said, like HR and the employee. Hmm. So that contact is created, and then you can have, if there is a relationship with contact object and the user, like it happens with lead and user. Okay, and if you have a relationship with contact and user, then you can bring user object also and say, okay, this is the HR, this is the employee. So that mapping, all those fields related data you can bring in to personalize the email. So here you should more focus on the personalization or any data decision making attributes that you require, that can you can bring in, not everything. Hmm. And then uh, select the fields. That's what I said. Hmm. So you have, okay, so you have, see, you have 5 steps here in the below of this PPT. I have given you uh, the diagram, the screenshot also. Select the object, entry criteria, filter criteria, entry data, and then the summary. Hmm. Now just see the change what happens if you're going to use Salesforce community. So you are going to, if there is any active communities in your community cloud, okay, and then you can search for that community and then select whom you want to enter, then the data, entry data, and the summary. So five, from the 5 step here it became 4 with the community. Mostly I haven't seen any use case till now for community. Hmm. Then now see the change. What happens when you do with campaigns? So in the campaign, you have only 3: campaigns, entry data, and the summary. So you need to see how many active campaigns I have in the Sales Cloud, hmm, and whom you want to add it. Whether that campaign is for the contact, like it becomes a campaign member, hmm, or is a lead that becomes a campaign member. It depends. Okay, so here it is 3. Hmm. Again, once I'm going back and saying, so this one, when you say different objects like user, lead, or contact, you have 5 different pointers. For community, you have 4 different pointers, and campaign, you have 3. Hmm. So these are different. Okay. Now, if you do not have Marketing Cloud Connect, if you haven't done any MC Connect, right? Then there is you will not be able to configure it. Like I in your screenshot. Okay, if you see at the below, then you are getting some. So you can see select in the see at the screenshot. Okay, choose a sales or service cloud object for the entry source. You cannot edit this section after the entry source is created, clearly mentioned. Okay, but below below that is a search, there is no other object because I took take this screenshot. from a business unit where there was no MC Connect. So you'll see this kind of a screenshot when you do not have MC Connect. Hmm. Like if you don't have the MC Connect with community, this is what happens. There was a problem loading, or if there is some issue, then you might get this issue, or you will get a blank. Okay, and when you have with campaign, this is what happens. There was problem retrieving undefined or something. Those error messages will be displayed when you are trying to configure. Then it means you have some issue with your MC Connect. Okay, so that's why MC Connect becomes a very interesting point of discussion when you are using Salesforce data entry. Okay, again I'm pausing here. I want to listen till now everybody were able to understand, or if I have to go back.